Shalom, family. Good to see everyone here. Hope you're doing well. All right, we're going to talk about how many households that are, yeah, somebody would have to call now, that are struggling here in America, especially after Donald Trump's alleged great, beautiful bill, right? Yeah. So, anyway, I'm making the final announcement just to let you know the Chebe growth butter is 45% off and it is available so that you can get this discount. Today is the final day of the sale and make sure you stock up and get your orders in as soon as possible. So ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this particular video. So, of course, people are complaining about how they're struggling. And you know what? They don't realize a lot of the struggle is due to racism, especially when it comes down to healthcare. They didn't want free healthcare because Black people would get it. So, in a sense, to be honest with you, many of you that are struggling and you had that attitude, I really don't feel too sorry for you. I say keep your ass out there and struggle. You know, anytime you felt that way, that is absolutely wicked. But now that you're struggling, we're supposed to feel something for you. Well, I don't. I don't. If you were walking around talking about I don't want free health care because Black people gonna get it and your ass is struggling now, hey, best of luck to you. But I don't feel bad for you. So yeah, there's a lot of people online talking about how their salaries are just not enough anymore like it used to be. And, you know, many of these people, they were the same ones telling us to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. They're the same people, y'all. It's just their circumstances are different. They never thought Donald Trump's policies would impact their life, but it most certainly is. Donald Trump, his policies are having an adverse effect on all of us. Nobody is benefiting. That's one thing about Donald Trump. He don't just make sure one group don't benefit. He makes sure all groups don't benefit up in here. That's for sure. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Here. Please give me a one if you can see my screen. Please give me a one if you can see my screen. Thank you.
Year when Trump passed the so-called big beautiful bill. Here's how that's going. First off, literally kicked off more than 4 million people off of food stamps, including 800,000 kids, resulting in a growing hunger crisis. Second, $1 trillion in healthcare funding was cut. In the past year, over 1,000 hospitals, clinics, nursing homes have closed, and healthcare premiums more than doubled for nearly 22 million Americans. Some folks even saw their monthly premiums go up tenfold, like $900 to $9,000. Oh, and half of Americans now struggle to afford gas and groceries. But hey, at least the top 1% got $1 trillion in tax cuts, really making America great. But seriously, midterms, they're November 3rd, guys. We need to vote. We need to vote because whether or not we like it, politics affects our wallets. It affects our money, our personal finance. So we got to mark our calendars and we got to vote some of these people out here.
I might be having a full-on crash out, and that's fine. But I think the United States is going to collapse. It's going to. It has to. It has to. Nothing is sustainable. There is no part of this country right now that is working. I'm a teacher. Our education system, trash. Public, private, it doesn't matter. I used to be a homeschool resource teacher. Most homeschool families don't do anything. I'm sorry. Most that I have worked with don't do anything. Okay. They're not teaching their kids. They think they are, but they're not. Okay. So it doesn't even matter what sector of education your kids are in. They're failing. No Child Left Behind was one of the worst things this country could have implemented. And now half of our country is illiterate. Okay. The economy. I just made a video full on crashing out about how my husband has 15 years experience doing what he's doing. I have an education degree and I've been teaching for almost 10 years and we can barely make ends meet as a family of 4. We are skimming the surface for now. I don't know how long until we're absolutely drowning. Our politics, enough said, okay? The 2-party system doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's never worked. It's not working now. It's not going to work in the future. All it does is divide people. Okay. Nothing is working in this 2025, almost 2026. Not a damn thing. I do not see how living in this country in 10 years is not going to be considered like living in a third world country. I just don't. Nothing works. Nothing's working. Nothing is changing for the better. Healthcare, don't even get me started on healthcare. 401ks, what are those? My husband and I were talking about our 401k and retiring. And I just wanted to tell him, we're not retiring. We're not retiring. We're going to work until we're dead. There's no retirement. It's not possible. Am I crashing out? Maybe. But life isn't sustainable anymore.
The United States has become extremely unsustainable. It's time that we have this conversation. I know that we're not all out here surviving and thriving like we portray on the internet. You go in the grocery store, you go grab a couple of items, it's $100. Rent across the United States is all the same. I remember when you used to be able to look at cities, big metropolitan cities, even medium metropolitan cities, and they would have a different rate than, say smaller cities. Now I can talk to someone that lives in Kansas and someone that lives in Oklahoma, and I live in Atlanta, and they're paying anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000. There's no reason why someone that lives in the middle of Kansas should be paying the same price that we pay in a metro city. It's exhausting. Did y'all see that Klarna just reported that they are losing money because people are not paying their Klarna bills? That credit card debt is super high. That's because everybody's robbing Peter to pay Paul just to afford the necessities like food. God forbid that you want to just keep yourself up. We're not talking anything super expensive. We're just talking keeping your hair cut or getting your nails done, getting your toes done, maybe picking a nice style once a month for your hair. You can't afford those things as much anymore. Let's start doing self-care at home. And if you go make more money, you're still not seeing the money. Let's discuss in the comments because it's getting a little crazy out here. Mm-hmm.
The cost of living in this country is currently, it's not going to be, it is currently unsustainable. And there are people that they know this, but then they'll still look at somebody else that's struggling and then tell them they're not doing good enough. I want you to imagine somebody that makes $75,000 a year. That's a pretty high up wage in terms of top earners in this country, $75,000 a year. And we're going to go through some things here. This is a person with no debt outside of a car. And please don't hit me with the, you can go buy a car for, shut up. You can't. Shut up. Stop saying ridiculous things. An entry level decent car is $30,000. So this person who puts $200 a month into insurance and they pay 5% into their 401k because shut up, people should be able to put money into their retirement. Because if you're not doing it now, you're never going to get to start doing it later. So after those two things come out of their paycheck and their taxes are paid, they bring home $53,850 a year from a $75,000 paycheck. Average rent in my state for a 1-bedroom apartment, because an adult should be able to live by themselves, $1,700. That car payment at 6% for an entry-level, very reasonable sedan, nothing fancy, car payment's $579 a month. Car insurance, $240 or so a month for a lot of vehicles in this day and age. You're a young person, you've got a nice job, but the insurance companies still want to screw you over. Food, you only cook at home. You never, ever go out. You only cook at home and you only eat decent quality food because a human being should be allowed to eat decent quality food. You pay $879 a month for that. You spend $250 a month in gas. You wear and tear on your car $100 a month. $80 for your phone, $80 for your internet, $175 a month for your electricity, $70 for your water, $20 for your cash. You make 75 grand a year, and outside of a car payment, you have zero debt. Do you know how much money you have left over annually at a $75,000 wage? You do nothing. You don't own a Netflix. You don't go out on a date. You don't pay to go to a park. You don't go watch a movie. You do nothing. If you can't find it on the internet for free, you don't get to do it. If you can't cook it at home for your $800, you don't get to do it. You have $3,700 left over annually. That's like $320 a month. And there's going to be, well, that's $300. Shut up. Shut your stupid, contrarian, edgelord mouth. That's not a doctor bill, because God knows just because we have insurance doesn't mean that we don't still pay far out the ass when we go to the doctors. People like to be entertained. They want to date. They want to. There's those of you out there that will tell somebody living like this on $75,000 a year before taxes that they are not doing what they're supposed to do, that they should get a second job, that they should get a side hustle, that they should get a better job. And the fact that you would look at somebody with no debt other than a car and say something like this to them means objectively you're a moron and you live in a fantasy world. This is unsustainable.
We're here again. We're here again. I'm a licensed therapist of 22 years, and things in the US couldn't possibly be worse. Let me give you an example, okay? So today I happened to be sitting in my own waiting room. I own a group practice, and there were probably 8 to 9 people sitting in the waiting room waiting for their appointments. And one person happened to start a conversation, which almost never happens in the waiting room. Most people just sit there kind of silently waiting for their clinician. But this person started off a conversation, and it sparked this whole thing about how depressed and anxious and broke everyone is. And that therapy, while great and helpful and wonderful, is barely scratching the surface. I could relate to everything that everybody was saying in my waiting room. Everything is bad. And I'm not exaggerating. This is not hyperbolic. Our healthcare, our taxes, our grocery prices, gas costs are unaffordable. We cannot afford to live in this country unless you're in the top percent. The average person in the US cannot afford to exist. I'm not totally sure how we dig out of this hole. All I know is that we sounded the alarm bells. We are here in spite of that. And it is awful. It's awful.
Y'all want to know one real reason why America's crashing out like crazy right now? Mediocrity don't hit like it used to, baby. See, once upon a time in America, you could be real mid and still thrive. Mediocre effort, boom, you get a house, car, annual vacation, pension, hell, maybe even a boat. You could clock in, coast through the week, grill on Sundays, and still retire with dignity. But that era is dead and gone, baby. And instead of leveling up or adapting, they're mad, they're bitter, and they're not even blaming the billionaires. They blaming you. They have the audacity to blame me. They blaming immigrants, black people, queer folk, anyone they think is taking something that used to be theirs by default. See, they don't want equality. They want comfort. And when mediocrity no longer gets them that comfort, they start rewriting the rules to rig the game again. It ain't about fairness. It's about preserving the lie that being average should still be enough.
The world is witnessing the death of America. Not from an outside force, but from a low-level con man, a pathological liar, a convicted felon, an adjudicated rapist that also inherited $400 million at birth and still managed to go bankrupt 6 times. Yet he's convinced millions of Americans that he's their savior, that he's this great deal maker, that he's this great leader. It's almost, if it was a movie, we would go see it and we would think it was completely unrealistic. We would think enough people would rise up to stop him, just as we believed the Germans would do that before Hitler seized control of the country and murdered 6 million Jews. You guys, this is happening right now, and we are running out of time fast. Let's look at the facts. You think I'm exaggerating? He's got the courts locked up. He's got the judges terrified.
What's up, America? 60% of Americans are now having trouble affording groceries for themselves or their families. And the average cost of eating at home has increased 33% in the last 2 years, up anywhere between 30% and 100% in the last 5.5 years. And eating out at restaurants costs an average of 50% more than it did just 3 or 4 years ago. Prices are going up to the point where people are really starting to struggle. The use of coupons is coming back heavily, but basically people are stating that they're just buying what's on sale. At this point, they're not caring about name brand or store brands. They're caring about just what's on sale that they can purchase. And then they bring it home and eat it because it's all they can afford. The cheapest that you can possibly buy. Now, that's what's happening for approximately 60% of the United States. And the prices, no matter where you're at, even if you shop at Aldi, are going up through the roof. There is no end to this in sight. Now, one of the major campaign promises was getting the cost of living down here in the United States on day one, if everybody remembers that. I remember it. Pepperidge Farms fucking remembers it. Day one, we're going to start working on getting prices lower. Remember that? I fucking remember that. So if you account for Joe Biden's price increases and then what we're dealing with now, we're basically in 5.5 years of absolute suffering with price gouging. Because yes, prices have gone up in some cases, but most of this, I would say probably 60 to 70% of the price increase is just stealing from you. It's gouging for profit. You have your fuel prices and your transport costs. That's all basically together. You have increasing costs of goods and services anyway, and then you have price gouging. I have a feeling if price gouging was made illegal and it was enforced, that all of a sudden prices would come down by 50% in a weekend, wouldn't they? Either way, this is becoming unsustainable for the American people and something needs to be done. But I bet you dollars to fucking donuts, not a thing will be done. It'll get worse and worse and you'll struggle and struggle until eventually the masses will vote in a socialist dystopian nightmare. Initially making it slightly better, then crashing it even fucking worse. Yay, future!
Literally had my wits in with this shit. Like, I don't know how the fuck people are functioning right now. It's a little too much for me. Like, I know everybody like, well, that's just life. You have to work. That's you can get what you want. You gotta be. I don't care. I don't think it's normal to be this overworked. I don't think it's normal to be burnt out. I don't think it's normal to be tired all the time. I don't think it's so normal to be so overstimulated. Everything's so overstimulated. And it's because of our work life. It's because of the fact that we have to rush and everything's hustle, 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 bustle, bustle. This, move there, move that, schedule this, time frame that, productivity, fully productive days, wake up at 3 a.m., go to bed at 10 p.m. Like, it's just too much. Like, we're just trying to fit too much in too little time when really all that we should be doing and focus on is literally living and breathing and being human. We can't even focus on that. We can't even focus on our basic ass health because everything is so fucking like, go, rush, do this, do that. And it's like, it never ends. It never stops. And I know like people are like, well, you got to work hard now so you can live comfortable later. There's not going to be comfortable later, man. You're just going to be working hard for the rest of your life until you overwork your body to the point that you can't even do shit no more. And you might just clock out of here. Like it's no end goal. Like for some people it do happen. I'm not saying you shouldn't work hard to meet your goals, but it's just like, I feel like another thing too is like, it feels like no matter what, it's always going to be a next goal. You reach one goal, you work your ass off to get to one goal, and then you got to work your ass off to get to the next goal, and you work your ass off. And the next thing you look up, you're 78, your whole life done flashed ahead of you, and it's like, damn, now, I can finally, enjoy my life. But I don't know. I just don't, it's just not it for me.
Why is no one talking about the crisis that America is in right now? Data centers, water, food regulations, economic. On to the economic, jobs, the infertility rate, prices of everything. Why are we so compliant? Why are we complying? This government no longer represents the people. This government no longer has the people in their best interest. And it didn't just start with this administration. It started with vague regulations, giving loopholes to millionaires, now billionaires, now soon to be trillionaires. I am all for capitalism. I am all for Venezuela. We had access to the oil. That was supposed to be our in for our economic.
It's like in America, if you don't have money, you will always be in a perpetual state of struggle and unhappiness and struggleness. Like it's just so sad to me, and I just hate that. This money shit. It's like I don't want to be in a perpetual state of struggle because I don't have money or I don't make enough money. It's sad, and so but it's all predicated off of capitalism. Like the reason why you feel like you gotta have 8 jobs. Do you think you would feel that same way if you lived in China as a citizen in China or something? No. If you lived because that society, their governments and how their society is built to actually help their people. So in other countries, if you were a citizen there, you wouldn't need to feel this need to have 8 million jobs or to have eight side hustles.
I believe the United States of America will collapse. I believe this because the people in power will not deal with poverty or wealth inequality. So long as we tolerate poverty, our society will get sicker and sicker. We will all slowly become more impoverished, and our sense of humanity will dwindle even further than it already has. The demise of this empire that is America will be the result of us tolerating the misery of others. Misery that could be so easily cured if we just cured poverty. It is not normal to have tent cities in every single major city in America in the greatest country on earth. It isn't normal to have people working full-time jobs just to live in their cars. And those are somehow the lucky ones because there are homeless people living on the street who have nothing and they work full-time jobs. This is not normal. It is not normal for people to work the entirety of their lives just to lose everything because they had to pay extortion rates on medicine when they got sick. I say it isn't normal, but it actually has become normalized. We've all become numb to these things. We've become numb to driving past the homeless every day. Our society has become numb to seeing abject poverty every single day. This is a sign that our society is sick, and it will only get sicker so long as the people in power continue to allow poverty to exist. Truth is, the people in power have no intention of curing poverty. The only intention they have is to keep power out of the hands of the people and to keep people poor and money going into the hands of corporations and their rich friends. And despite what the media says, curing poverty is not hard. Very easy, in fact, but the government doesn't want you to know that because they want you to believe the lie that there's not enough money. Yet there's always enough money for their wars. There's always enough money for corporate bailouts and for corporate tax cuts. How is it that we never have enough money to take care of the American people, but we have enough money to pay the weapons contractors all the money they need for war? And there just always seems to be another forever war. The cure to crime, poverty, and needless misery is simply taxing the rich and ending the forever wars. Thank you all so much for watching, and I appreciate your face.
But what people like him don't realize, y'all been the ones running the system the whole time. So if it's not what you want, you sure can't blame us. We're not at fault. You know, it's the people that look like you. You're the ones to blame. You've been the one boasting about being in charge and being the master race and having high IQs. That's what y'all were doing the whole time. But the reality is y'all really don't know how to run a country. That's why the country is in the shape that it's in, because you really don't know how to run one. And the biggest cover up is y'all failed all over in Europe. I mean, come on. Y'all didn't do well over there. You floated your ass over here and set up the same system that failed over there. Capitalism always fails. It always fails. It does not have a lasting effect. It never have. And it's not now either. And y'all don't know how to do anything else because you can't think of anything else. You're not creative. You can't think of anything else. So all you would do is a reset and then run the place back in the ground again. That's all that would happen. So look, there's a reason why this stuff is not working out. It's because your time is done. It's over. But many of you are holding on for dear life, thinking something different is coming. Nothing different is coming under any Gentile. And that is a fact. So everything you see today, y'all, we had nothing to do with it. It is not our fault. We haven't been running anything. They didn't care to take our ideas on anything. They have largely just tried to act like we didn't exist and don't want to talk about slavery and don't want to talk about reparations. And look at where it's gotten us. Did it make you better off? It sure haven't. America is so cursed. I think even if you live halfway across the earth, you can see how cursed America is. Plain and simple. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here. And be on the lookout for my upcoming lives. And don't forget to pick up your Chebe growth butter at 45% off. The sale ends at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Shalom, family.